Baruch Hashem. Okay, so this class brings us to the fundamentals, class A, the fifth class of fundamentals. And the name of this class is Clarify and Verify. Clarify and Verify, and we'll explain what that means. So we as Jews, all Jews, the whole klal, the whole kahila, we want to be what's called a yosher. We want to be straight. As a matter of fact, at the very, very end of our davening, I don't see a sitter here. At the very, very end of our davening, there goes the tzaddik running. Yisher koyach, yisher koyach. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So when we daven, you know, after we say Oleinu, say Oleinu, then we say Alkain, and then there's a Kaddish, and then what do we say after the Kaddish? We say Altira, right? Altira mipachet pisein. Okay, and it ends, Altira ends like this. Ach tzadik yedi lishmecha, yeshu yeshorim esponecha. How is that translated? The righteous will extol your name, and the upright, the yosher, the yeshorim, will dwell in your presence. Okay? So every Jew is striving, because we remind ourselves every time we daven, the upright shall dwell in your presence, the upright shall dwell in your presence. We're always reminding ourselves that we need to be straight. We need to be yosher. Okay? So the reason for me giving over this course, this class in this way, is because we talked about last week about chidushim. We talked about how we are going to be reaching out to people of all different types. Okay? We're going to be reaching out to people of many different worldviews. We are going to be talking to people that have been raised in ways that we don't have any conception of, that we weren't prevalent. We weren't present for it to have any prevalence in our minds. We don't understand. So when we're giving over and trying to bring people close to Torah and mitzvahs, there's going to be this barrier, first of all, a vernacular barrier that we have to overcome, but also we have to assess and determine the level that this person is holding, so that when we give over this light, the shining light, it's not so much that it breaks the vessel. What would be an example of breaking the vessel? They might lose interest, they might get angry, they might argue with you, etc., and so forth. So we have to make this assessment. So we want to be upright in such a way, which I'm going to explain. As a matter of fact, your relative, the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, his sefer, Messias Yeshorim, okay, this is the path of the Yosher, Yeshorim, the upright. Now, they had translated as just, but it's the path of the straight, the upright, okay? And a lot of people ask, why Yeshurim? Where do we find even where he talks about Yeshurim? But he does. He does talk about it in there. I found it. But anyway, so we're going to draw from the Messias Yesharim, okay? Now, what does the Messias Yesharim say? Now, again, the context is we need to make sure we're straight, and this whole class is defining how to do that, so that when we do give a chiddush, we have confidence. We have confidence. And a chiddush is almost a drasha, in the form of a drasha, like you look at the pasuk and you're telling it to him, and you're trying to understand him and where she's holding, and then you try to draw out of it in the way that they will understand or she will understand. Okay?
Isn't it like your opinion or your best judgment in a given situation?
Yes. Remember we talked about that's your Torah. But what you want to do is you want to be so straight, you want to be so refined, and that's why we want to make sure we're doing our mitzvahs, we want to make sure we're davening, we want to make sure we're doing everything we need to do as Jews, we're going to get into it, so that when you do make that what you called your opinion, it's yasher, it's straight, and it brings them back to truth. Okay? That's why we're getting this over. Now, the first chapter of the Mesilas Yesharim, Yesod HaChasidus, the foundation of piety, Chasidus, being a Chassid. V'shoresh ha'avodah, and the root of our service, hatamimahu, perfect service, is this: vayis boirer, vayis ames, to clarify and to verify. Now, the word verify, listen to what this word is. Yis ames, yis amet, amet. What does yis amet mean? What is the root of amet? Truth. So Rabbi Noach Weinberg, a love of Shalom in his genius, says they usually translate this similarly like it is here, to clarify and to verify, which is the title of this class. But he says it's not verify so much. It means you need to clarify, which we'll define, and you need to make true, make it emes for yourself. What you have clarified, you need to make it true for yourself. Make it true. Different techniques of getting it so that it's not just, oh, that's truth because it's Torah, right? We just kind of like can use it as a catchphrase and I just believe it because it's in the Torah. We have to go beyond that by clarifying, and then it has to be made true. Remember we talked about the buckets of faith, belief, and knowledge? Make true means you're getting it in that bucket of knowledge. You're getting what you're learning. You're into that. You say, I know this is MS, emet, MS. Okay? So what is clarification? Okay? What does it mean to clarify? Now, Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg, this is a sefer from Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg called the Hebrew Letters. Okay? Now, each of the Hebrew letters, from Aleph to Tav, each one is drawn out of one previous to it. So Beis comes out of Aleph, right? Gimel comes out of Beis. Daled comes out of Gimel, etc., and so forth. All the letters. What we're going to look at is what letter is associated with clarification. Clarification. Listen to what he says. After each individual act of creation, God observed that which he had created and saw it to be good. At the end of the sixth day of creation, God observed all he had made, and behold, it was very good. Thus, before creation, God looks into the primordial Torah. The act of creation itself, in each and every present moment, is by means of the divine word. After creation, God observes his reality to be good, and there is no good other than Torah. Seeing creation to be good is actually creating created reality back to its ideal model, the Torah. This is called in Kabbalah and Chassidus the process of clarification. Okay? Now the Ramchal in this first pasuk, he says that we need to clarify and make true, and our goal and our aspiration in every labor we have throughout our lifetimes. Now, what he means is not my labor here or my labor there. It means every single thing. Now, this is a high aspiration, okay? But we're going to use it to help us. Every single thing we do, from lifting a finger to the way we sit, we need to clarify and verify that is our action. It's a creation. See, what we should do, and we're going to see this through the letter ayin, through the letter samech, and through the letter peh. So it's samech, ayin, peh, in that order, samech, ayin, peh. So the letter ayin, okay, let me show you what it looks like before I give this over. This is the letter ayin. Okay? See the letter ayin? Now the ayin has two eyes. First of all, the ayin itself means I. If you spell it out, ayin, yod, nun, sofit, it spells I. It means I. So if you look at this closely, here we have two eyes, and they come and meet and cross. And what the rabbis say is that they cross just like our eyes. The right eye will cross to the left side of the brain. The left eye will cross to the right side of the brain. That's how it works. So this is a picture of the eye and the brain and the way it works, brainstem. So we have the right eye here. It looks up to Samech. And we have the left eye here, which looks down to Peh. So we have Samech, Ayin, Peh. So the right eye looks back up to Samech, from which he came. The left eye looks into the future, the present. Well, we'll talk about it. It looks to Peh, okay? So we just read that the act of a clarification is in anything we do. The right eye, what does the right eye do, and what does it mean to us? What does this Kabbalah, this Chassidus mean? It means before we do an action, we should look up to the primordial Torah. We should, with the right eye that looks up, it looks up into the Torah and says, what am I going to create from this pattern? Does it fit the pattern? I look into the pattern. Okay? Now, as you know, the tefillin sits on the head right between the eyes. Right between the eyes. The tefillin is a mitzvah which we have that subjects the mitzvah in our comprehension and our kavanah, and the actual just the process of God himself. When we put on tefillin, we are subjugating our minds and our hearts to God, to become like God. That's what we're doing with tefillin. Okay? So the tefillin that sits right between the eyes. So the right eye looks up into the pattern. What comes between? The mouth. The mouth is right in between the right eye and the left eye. So the right eye looks up into the pattern. The mouth speaks. This is the creative process, which follows action. I mean, speech follows action. Then the left eye looks and says, does this which I have created or done, does it fit the pattern in heaven? In other words, is it correct? Is it right? Is it true? Is it emes? Remember, we say we need to make it true. Okay? So this process is, it's stripping down what we do to the core of the onion, right? Strip away all of the things we do without even thinking throughout the day, without a thing we get down. But what we're talking about here is, it's a serious thing, because we read from the Akademus of the Zohar, and how Rabbi Shimon said the dangers of making a chiddush when you don't for an unlearned student. Okay, so what we're saying here, in each of our own levels, we need to make sure that we're yasher, we're straight, Messias Yesharim, right? We're on the path of the straightness. We're on the path of upright, like Adam Kadmon is the upright man. How do we do this? Well, the letter ayin itself gives us a tool to use. I look up into the Torah. I speak the words that I have. I speak the words. For example, I'm talking to someone. I'm looking into the Torah. I draw out something new, a chiddush, because remember, God looked, he spoke it into creation, and then he verified and said it is good, right? That's how he did it. So what we need to do is we look at the Torah. We determine, how am I going to give this over to this person in his place and in his time? How we come, we're doing these calculations like, first it'll come really slow, but then we're going to be making all these calculations like instantaneously, how I'm going to do this. And then afterward, we need to verify. I'm not using the verify of the same verify I'm talking. We're going to get to verify in a moment. But I need to look with my left eye to make sure that what I said was true and fits the pattern. So you can analyze when you've told someone something and you say, you know what, that might not be the best way to explain it, because your left eye said that's quite not right, right? So you say, here's another way of explaining it. So you're looking in the Torah, you're speaking it, and you give it over. And then maybe you say, here, maybe there's even another way of looking at it, or you might get it right on the first time. What I'm trying to say is, do not be afraid to try to tell someone about their mitzvahs and make them understand it. Because Hashem is going to help you. You are doing one of the greatest mitzvahs in all the Torah. Remember, where was it found? It was found in Kings and Their Wars, in the very last part of the Yad HaZachar, the very last part of the Mishnah Torah of the Rambam, right? Not only that, it was right after Yifas Torah, the in the battle, the woman of beautiful form, right? Drawing out the sparks. We talked about drawing out the sparks. And there Rambam puts this mitzvah. We, and every Jew, and in every time, and in every place, have a commandment to reach out to the non-Jews, to draw them close through Torah. The 7 mitzvahs b'nei are in the Torah, through the people. Remember, the Amat Emes is through the people that have the explanation of the Torah that was given on Sinai, and the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach are in the Torah. All right, so we have this great mitzvah, great mitzvah. So God, I believe, is going to help us in performing this mitzvah. Yes?
And on Chabad too, we have the calling of the Rebbe that he said.
Yeah, even more than that, right. Okay, so we have the Rebbe's, he gave the mandate to go out. So yes, not only do we have the commandment, but it is reinforced by big Gedolim. One of the biggest Gedolim of generations, right? Of the Rebbe, of the 7th Rebbe of Chabad. Okay? So now we see how we can clarify, okay? All right. So verify means to make it true. So we use the example of tefillin. We use the example of tefillin that subjugates the mind and the heart to God. What is the ultimate goal? To be like God. So there is an actual process that I have learned from Rabbi Noach Weinberg, Alev of Shalom. And I have permission to do this, so I'm gonna show you this as an object lesson, because it's better if I show you how this works rather than just to explain it. Okay? So what I'm showing you is a way for me and many others who know this to make true it. You see, the Ramchal says, and that these things about learning how to be a chassid, they only come through effort and study. Making something true means you have to try, and you have to use different devices and different kavanot in order to make things true, okay? So the example that I'm going to use is for every time I put on my tefillin, okay? Okay, every time I put on my tefillin, this is Rabbeinu Tam. Okay, I'm going to leave the shel yad in the case. Okay, and just use the strap to show my example. Okay, so every time I put on my tefillin, I have this kavanah in mind. Okay, oh, wrong way. Okay, I have this kavanah in mind. Okay, so I wrap the tefillin around once. Okay, now it doesn't have everything up here, right? But you can see I've wrapped my tefillin around once, and I come around. Okay, that's a half a wrap. Okay, so when I come on what I count as the first here, well, I might not have enough. When I come on the first here, okay, on this first one, I tell myself, even if I could try and want to. Now, this is a kavanah to make true 2 things. One is Yiras Hashem. The other is be like God. Okay, they're almost inseparable. If you have Yiras Hashem, true Yiras Hashem, you are eventually going to strive to be like God, to try to emulate, because that's what Dveikus is emulation. So on this first one, I say, even if I tried, I would not achieve half of my desires in my lifetime. Even all of my desires to whatever I want to do. I want to go to the Bahamas, or I want to go ski in Aspen, or I want maybe someday to have a Ferrari, or I want someday to be able to go to Israel and eat in the kosher McDonald's, or whatever it is, these things. I'm reminded, even if I had all of these desires, it's impossible to even achieve half of them in my lifetime. That's the first one. Okay, we're on a progression here of trying to get us to make true. We're trying to make true this mitzvah of tefillin that gives us yiras Hashem and teaches me to subject my heart and my mind to God, to be like God. Okay, second time around, this one. Okay, all right. This one here doesn't look right. This third one here, when I get to this one, okay, I say, now we say we would achieve half, right? I ask myself, would I exchange all the pleasures in the world? I know I can't achieve half of what I want to do. I ask myself here, would I exchange all the pleasures in the world? That means every single pleasure that you could possibly have for the loss, chas v'sholem, of a child. Let me ask you, would you exchange chas v'sholem, you know what I'm talking about, for everything, all the pleasures in the world? How about $1 billion? Someone offers you $1 billion. Someone offers you $1 trillion. Look, not even chas v'sholem death. They just say, look, you have a cute daughter. I'll give you $1 billion. She'll live a great Jewish life. I'm gonna take her to another country. You'll never see her again, but please be assured that she's gonna be fine. $1 billion. Would you do it?
No.
Not for all the pleasures in the world? All the pleasures in the world. No. You wouldn't do it, right? That's number 3. So I'm going to get half. I wouldn't exchange all the pleasures in the world for the pain of the loss of one child. Okay, here, now watch this. Coming around the 4th time. Boy, I hope I make it. That's getting short. Okay, 4th time. I just said I wouldn't exchange for all the pain in the world. I mean, I wouldn't exchange all the pleasures in the world for the pain of the loss of one child. The pain for one Aveira in Gehinnom is more than all the suffering of this world. The suffering, the tsar, the suffering of one Aveira in Gehinnom is more than all the suffering of this world. Now, we just said we didn't exchange pleasure. So pleasures are becoming, what are pleasures? Who cares, right? Because we just said the pain and the suffering, chas v'sholem, of one child. Now we're saying, goodness, the suffering of one Aveira. Pleasures, what are they starting to become? They're nothing. So now that I get around to the 5th time, I'm not going to make it. Now that I get around to the 5th time, I say the pleasure, the schar, the pleasure of one mitzvah in Gan Eden is worth going through all Gehinnom. It means if you and I really understood what was going on in Gan Eden and what we're going to get there, we would swim through Gan Eden. We would jump in both feet. We would say, look, if it's worth it, I'm gonna go through all of Gehinnom. Now, here's a little bit of musar, okay? A little bit of musar. So if we're saying pleasures don't matter, and we're saying pain doesn't matter, if we're saying I'm willing to go through all of Gehinnom for one mitzvah, then if I'm tired and I don't feel like getting up in the morning, there's the little bit of suffering of not wanting to get up in the morning, but I just tell myself every day that I'm willing to go through all of Gehinnom. That's a lot more pain than the suffering of being tired in the morning, right? So I can take the pain of getting up and get over to the shul and do my davening. See the process we're making here, okay? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh boy, 5. I'm not going to make it. We'll have to pretend. 5. Okay, so we just said all the pleasures. What's more, now we're getting into heavier. What's more than all the pleasures of Gehenna? Now we were just talking about the schar of one mitzvah. Now, what's heavier, what's worth more than all of Gan Eden, of every single human being, is to do the will of Hashem in this world. In this world. Now, we don't understand that. We have a hard time comprehending how doing Hashem's will in this world is more than all the pleasures of Gan Eden. And we've worked through this process through here, right? Okay? Now, the 6th, let's say this was the 6th one that I've wrapped around. what is more than doing the will of God in this world is being like God in this world. Being like God in this world. So every day, 1, 2, 3, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, you're making this idea true, that this mitzvah is subjecting my mind and my heart to the point where I want to be like God. I'm making it true. You see, it's a technique that you can use to make something true. So we said clarify is I look up into the mitzvah. The mitzvah is binding on your hand and binding on your arm and between your eyes. It's already been created, right? The mouth has spoken it. I put it on and I look back at the Torah. Yep, it seems to be straight. Now when I do the mitzvah, I've clarified, now I have to make it true. I have to make it true here. I have to get it into my bones. And this is something we have to do for everything. Everything. So if we're striving to be yasher, if we're striving to be straight, we will attempt to clarify and make true these things so that we don't make any mistakes. Now we will make mistakes. We will make mistakes. But Hashem knows that we're going to be trying our best. Hashem's going to know that we're going to try our best. Now, I have to put this away. Okay, I have to put this immediately away. Okay, so let me just do that. Okay. Okay. Always make sure for you out there that the Kesher Yod is touching the bais there. And hold it in with the tefillin. Just a little extra I throw in. Right? And we have it here. Why not teach a little bit about it? Oh, and another thing is, when you're wearing your tefillin, that shel yad has to always be touching the bais when you're wearing it. Always. You ladies, don't worry about it. I'm just talking to the people that are watching, and our esteemed Aaron Yosef, Aaron Yisrael Yehuda ben Noach Halevi. Ben Noach, no? You told me Ben Noach, didn't you?
Yeah, Ben Noach. Oh, but that's, I guess, since I'm alive, you say Ben Tema.
Ben Tema. Okay. So you have to do it in such a way that there's a little piece of leather that sticks up out of the shell, out of the kesher yod, and just make sure that little guy is touching the bias right there, and always check for it. Always check for it. Like in Ashrei, when you get to Ashrei, because in the part of Ashrei we say poseach es yodecha umas bialocha chayrotzen. When you say poseach es yodecha, you touch the antefillin. Mm-hmm. That's the time to check that yod. Then make sure it's touching. And then, okay, that's just a little something thrown in since I had it open. A bonus, that's a bonus. All right, Baruch Hashem. All right.
Can you go again, the 1, 2, 3 without it, just one was
Oh, you want me to go through it again?
just the numbers.
Yeah, so really briefly, one is, I won't achieve half the desires in my life. 2 is, God forbid, would you exchange all the pleasures in this world for the loss of the tsar, or the loss of one child, God forbid. So you're just saying all the pleasures in the world isn't worth the suffering, and think of all the suffering in the world. That's minuscule. I mean, it's a lot, don't get me wrong, but all the suffering in the world, that's minuscule, right? So we're saying all the pleasures, they really don't count. Number 3 is the suffering of one of Avera is more than all the suffering in the world. Okay, so we're building a case. We say then that the schar of one mitzvah in Gan Eden is worth going through all Gehinnom. So what are we saying? We're saying discomforts and things that our Yetzer Hara tries to convince us not to do a mitzvah, and it makes us uncomfortable. Or we're saying if getting that mitzvah is worth all the pain of Gehinnom, then this little bit of uncomfortable, it's not going to stop me from doing the mitzvah, right? Okay, so 5 is doing God's will is more than the schar of all Gan Eden for everyone, and that being like God, doing the will of God is more than all, I just said that, right? Doing God's will, yeah. Then number 6, being like God is, in this world, is more than them all. More than them all in completion, okay? So the Ramchal says, A perfect avoida is clarify and verify, make true. We want to be Yasher when we're reaching out. And if we use just little tools like the things I've shown you, look into the primordial Torah, look into the Torah, okay? Speak, and then afterward, just clarify that what you've said fits the puzzle, fits Torah, fits truth. Because you're striving to be Yasher, right? You'll know, okay? So you should be all encouraged. You should all be strengthened as we go into Rosh Hashanah, as we go into the high holidays, that these things would be solidified, and that God would give us for next year this energy to be able to do this mitzvah. We would be able to be successful. Hashem.
I was thinking, just right now that you said, so maybe it would be good for us to learn more about Noah and Abraham, because you just said it, to be able to go to the primordial Torah, meaning what Abraham did, it will help us to understand how he got to the understanding that is God.
Yeah,
Like exercises.
when I say primordial, do you mean at the beginning of the Torah? Like what happened at the very beginning? Is that what you understand primordial mean?
No, I'm trying to, when you said that, what it came to me is, there are certain things that Noah did, right? And they are the children of Noah.
Right,
So to study more what he did and what Abraham did
right,
to recognize, but the whole thing about this is to try to make them recognize,
right,
to get inside of them
Right.
and recognize there is only one God.
right. And remember we went through Adam, Noah, Abraham, the Shavatim, Klal Israel, getting the Torah, and Moshe, right, getting the Torah, and how all of this things falls into. Remember we went through that path? But I know what you're saying. So,
Yeah. More like stories, like, I remember the kids had told that Abraham will go every morning and will look at the sun and just observe the sun. And to see.
and you can use these things
Right.
in talking to people.
Right.
And this is going to come from your heart. How do I explain?
That's what I,
And so you're exactly on track. Exactly on track. Okay? So are there any other questions? Any other questions? Any confusions? I mean, that's some pretty heavy duty stuff.
Yeah, could you repeat everything you just said in the call?
So the main point again, the main point again is just this. So just very simply, I'm studying Torah. I'm learning. I'm doing learning. I learn the Parsha every week, right? I'm learning the Parsha. And so I'm looking into the Torah, right? I'm learning from it. Now, I find someone that's interested in learning about Torah and mitzvahs. And I start with him about God, about God, he's one, right? Or something that would interest him. I look into what I've learned, because I've looked into the Torah. Now I'm speaking to him, a way of explaining it to him. And then afterward, I just ask myself, as I've explained to him, is that straight? Am I telling him something that fits with what I've learned in the Torah and what I've been taught? Okay? If so, you're great. That's what I mean by clarify. Look, speak, and then clarify what you've learned. It's simple, really as simple as that.
double check with the person that
Ask him questions. Does that make sense? What do you think? Now, there's a technique. Tell me, what do you think I just said in your own words? Can you tell me what I just told you in your own words? That's a way to check to see if it's straight in their minds, right? You think you've given over in a way that they understand, but they might be thinking something completely different, right? So that is a way, I think, to do it. Ask him, tell me what you think I just said. Can you repeat in your own words what I just said? Very powerful technique.
It usually happens though that when you're reading the parasha, something comes up that you're talking to somebody that you read in the parasha. I think it's just fascinating
Yeah.
that when you are in tune,
Yeah.
it's like the whole world is in tune
Right.
with the parasha.
I don't know which Rebbe it was. I think the Alter Rebbe said that we should live with the Parsha. We should always be looking for the Parsha of the week. How does that fit me? How does that fit what I'm doing? How can I glean for my life, something that'll make me even straighter, more yasher, so I'm in tune with the parsha of the week. Shukayach.